I never imagined I'd fall in love with a secret janitor while testing my staff. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The fluorescent lights hummed like angry bees overhead, buzzing endlessly as I sifted through the endless reports piled on my desk. The weight of my office felt like it was closing in, throat tight and heart racing. It's never easy being the one in charge. I had to keep my team engaged, motivated, and above all productive. So, I devised a secret test to see who was truly committed. As I glanced out the large window, streaks of rain smeared the glass, mimicking the tears I felt swelling in my eyes. The storm began brewing outside, and so did a tension inside me. Little did I know shadows were creeping closer, hovering just beyond the fringes of my sterile office. A janitor, a vague silhouette at first, moved silently through the halls, pushing a rusted cart filled with buckets and mops. I hadn't formally introduced myself to him. He was just part of the scenery, a mere background character in my daily grind. His name tag read Michael, but all I could think about were the wild rumors swirling among my staff. Some whispered he had a dark past, that he had once been someone important, now reduced to cleaning floors. Others claimed to have seen him glancing at the employees with an intensity that made them uneasy. It stirred an odd curiosity within me. Why did I suddenly feel this pull to him? It was absurd. Then came the unexpected twist. One afternoon, the cleaning cart stilled outside my door. I could hear it. The sound of his footsteps, soft yet steady, a breeze moving through a locked door. I felt my heart race. With trembling hands, I opened the door, and there he stood, clean and composed, yet shrouded in mystery. His eyes were dark pools, reflecting not just the fluorescent light but shadows of secrets untold. "Can I help you with something?" he asked, his voice low, a husky whisper that curdled my insides and set my heart pounding. A test? A challenge? I was drawn into those depths. My brain spun with questions, and my heart raced as days turned into weeks. I couldn't shake the feeling. I found myself studying him from afar. The way he concentrated while wiping down the desks, how he paused to listen when he thought no one noticed. Each encounter wrapped around my heart tighter. Was it suspense? Or was it something more? But I was the boss. This wasn't allowed, was it? Each time our gazes met, electricity pulsed through the air. The moment sizzled, leaving me breathless. I felt torn between professionalism and an undeniable connection. It haunted met his implausible intrigue. Then, one stormy night, just when I thought I had buried those feelings under a facade of authority, I stumbled upon him in a neglected corner of the building. The dim light painted shadows across his face, highlighting the determination in his expression. My heart skipped as he turned to me, surprise flashing through his eyes. Everything hung in the balance. The rain drummed a steady rhythm on the window, but the storm inside me raged louder. I barely knew who this man was, yet everything inside me screamed I needed to find out more. And as he stepped closer, hand reaching out, I held my breath. Was this the moment the world flipped upside down? Did I dare to cross that line? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air hung thick between us, charged and electric, stretching out seconds into what felt like eternities. His fingers were just a breath away, and I could see a flicker of uncertainty dance across his features. My heart, previously pounding with reckless abandon, now thrummed a different tune, a mixture of desire and fear. What was I doing? It didn't matter who he was or what stories wrapped around him like a cloak. All that mattered was this moment, this breathless connection. But before I could reach for him, before I could shatter the glass wall of our world, an echoing siren's wail shattered the stillness. I pulled back, the spell broken, as my mind fought against the wave of escalating panic that washed over me. I remembered I was at work, and this was not the place for fantastical rendezvous with men like him. There were rules, regulations, and the unyielding weight of my position as their leader. "Is everything all right?" I asked, forcing my professional demeanor back into place. Michael took a step back, creating a chasm between us again. swallowed by the shadows of the corner we'd found ourselves in. Just cleaning. His voice faltered, the confidence gone, and I saw the resolve in his eyes flicker as if he were caught in a storm himself. Of course, I replied, ashamed of the disappointment that curled around my heart like a vine. We stood there, two ships in the night, connecting at one moment and drifting apart the next. An unsettling silence claimed the space, thick and heavy, until he finally turned to leave. As he did, an undeniable need surged through me, a longing to chase after him, to wade through the murky waters of my emotions. But I stayed rooted to the ground as the familiar tremors of doubt echoed in my chest. Days turned into more restless weeks. I tried to immerse myself in work, but everything felt dull and gray without his ghostly presence weaving through the halls. I found myself imagining scenarios in which I could break the silence, turn the tides in our favor. Each little encounter, the way he smiled faintly when I was engrossed in meeting after meeting, how he lingered in my periphery, was a testament to the connection that clung to my heart like a shadow. In an impulsive moment, I decided to give him my attention. I placed a remarkable order for dinner from the new Thai restaurant nearby. Something I hadn't anticipated doing until I walked into the break room and saw him there. He haphazardly organized the kitchen, his methodical movements mirroring something deeper and stirring within me. "Join me for dinner?" I asked, my voice coming out softer than I intended, infused with a hint of vulnerability. His gaze shot up, caught off guard, and I wondered if he could hear the chaos thrashing around in my chest. I shouldn't. That familiar feels of indignation flickered in me. "If you don't want to, you can just say so." I caught myself crafting my words like glass shards, balancing delicately between indifference and desire. He hesitated, and for a moment, the world around us faded, collected dust and peeling paint indistinct amidst the fervor of our every shared glance. "I want to," he finally said, breathless and barely audible, but just as a smile threatened to break across my face, the muted rustle of footsteps filled the air. I swung around to see my manager, Roger, unexpected and unwelcome. "Hey, Miss Clark, you need to put your focus back on that project deadline," he said, waving a clipboard in my direction. The reminder shot through me, piercing the moment like ice. "Right, yes, of course." I could feel the weight of Michael's presence shrink, the laughter hanging in the air, suffocating under a cloud of office judgment. "Yes, sir. I'll get right on it," I replied, my voice clipped and distant. I stole a glance at Michael, but the warmth in his eyes had dimmed. "Let's talk later," he whispered, caution tinting his voice. Without another word, he exited the break room, leaving me in the presence of a stifled air, filled with regret and looming possibilities. As the day blurred into night, whispers among the staff crawled closer, echoing my turmoil, murmurs of inefficiency and discontent. The fragile threads of my authority were unwinding, and with every word I skimmed from their reports, I felt the churning chaos rising within. And just when I thought I had found my ground again, a soft knock resounded from the door. My heart leapt, hope igniting again. But the moment was shattered when I opened it to find a group of co-workers armed with a slew of complaints. Each syllable slipped from their lips like poison, laced with unwavering scrutiny. "We don't understand why you've been spending so much time with Michael," someone finally said, their voice dripping with implications. "Just a janitor, right? Shouldn't you be focusing on more important issues?" Each accusation clawed at me, forcing me into a corner. Would I sacrifice any chance of what might bloom with Michael for the sake of my job? I swallowed hard, struggling to unify my worlds, but each moment of conflict only served to amplify my growing feelings for the man I barely knew. And amid the cacophony, a revelation shattered my last threads of composure. A message from Michael, unexpected and timed in a way that etched itself into my mind. "Meet me tonight." The roof. My heart thundered, a rebellion against the expectations. But as I wrestled with my choice, inner turmoil churned through me. If I crossed that threshold, what would it mean for our lives, our positions? I could feel the very walls closing in again. Yet this time my heart was torn wide open with the fiery possibility. As dusk settled, I stole glances at the clock, each tick echoing my heartbeat. Could I turn away from everything society expected from me? It was one thing to feel this connection, but would it survive the scrutiny of our world? Just as I made my choice, ready to confront the storm brewing within, a message pinged in. Another from Michael. "I need to tell you something. Something that changes everything." And just like that, the storm wasn't only outside anymore today. It raged within me, begging to be unleashed as I teetered on the brink of loss and newfound hope. The rooftop felt alive, a silent sanctuary cradled by stars that twinkled above like a crowd of spectators holding their breath. I stepped out, the cool night air wrapping around me like a gentle caress, but the thrill of anticipation quickly twisted into anxiety in my stomach. Michael was already there, leaning against the rail, and the moonlight painted a silver sheen across his face, revealing the uncertainty etched in his features. As I approached, the moment stretched, charged with all the half-whispered words left unsaid. He turned to me, comfort and confusion mingling in his dark eyes, and for a second, I imagined the weight of the world slipping away, perhaps beneath the stars. We could be simply two souls yearning for connection. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, inflected with a mix of gratitude and apprehension. That I hesitated, the words caught in my throat like birds flapping against a cage. "I didn't have a choice. You said it would change everything." He straightened, the casual pose dissolving as he stepped closer, the distance that had stretched endlessly between us suddenly collapsing. "There's something you need to know about me. About my life before." The shadows flickered in his eyes as he searched for the right way to unveil the weight he carried. I felt my heart clamp down instinctively, anticipating a sorrowful tale. "You don't have to share if you don't want to," I offered, but he shook his head, resolve replacing hesitation. "No, I do. I can't start whatever this is between us without it." He dropped his gaze, collecting thoughts like leaves before a storm. "I wasn't always a janitor. I had a life when I gave up. My name, my identity, it's more complicated than you think." A trembling breath escaped his lips, as if the admission were an act of bravery. "What do you mean?" I stepped closer, desperate for clarity, yet keenly aware of the fragility surrounding him. "When I left home, it was to escape a life I didn't choose. A life that haunted me." He lifted his gaze, and I could see the vulnerability unravel the threads of his facade. "But the world didn't let me go that easily. I took on this job to survive, to be free. Except I never fully escaped. The past keeps creeping back, reminding me that no matter how hard I try to erase it, it's still there." I could feel the gravity of his words shift the atmosphere, drawing me toward him as I hung on his every syllable. A mixture of compassion and curiosity turned in my chest, threading through my heartstrings as I asked, "What happened?" His breath hitched, and those shadows gathered again in his eyes. "People in my past, they're not just memories, they're consequences. I thought I was protecting myself by hiding. I wanted to become someone else, to blend into the anonymity of this life. But now." He paused, his voice trembling with a flame of urgency. "They might have found me. I don't know if it's safe for me anymore." The chill slid down my spine, the weight of his admission settling over us like an impending storm. "What do you mean? Are you in danger?" I reached for him, my fingers trembling as I touched his arm. He flinched at the contact but held my gaze. "I don't want to drag you into this, into my chaos. But I need you to understand I didn't choose the life of a janitor just for the paycheck." The sorrow in his eyes burned deep, pulling me into the tides of his struggles. "Then why stay?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper, mystified yet determined, "Because I wanted to believe I could find a new beginning here with you," he confessed, the light in his eyes warring against the heaviness in his heart. The words hung heavy, altering the very fabric of the air around us, and I fought against the whirlpool of feelings that blossomed in my chest. "We can figure this out together," I replied, my voice firm with an assurance I didn't truly feel. "I won't let you walk away alone. Whatever your past may be, you're here now. You're safe with me." As he opened his mouth to respond, the familiar piercing wail of sirens erupted in the distance, stark and jarring against the fragile moment we had constructed. Panic blurred his features, and for an instant, I feared I had tethered his heart to something more dangerous than just the storm of emotions between us. "I need to go," he said abruptly, turning away. Vulnerability gave way to an urgent resolve, painfully pulling him back to a world I did not know. "Michael, wait." I reached for him, but he stepped back, the weight of his secret threatening to crush him under the strain. "I don't know how long I can stay hidden. If they find me, if they find you." His voice broke, the gravity of something unfathomable lurking behind his words. The denial slipped from my lips like an instinctive shield. "You can't leave like this. We can find a way." Just as the darkness threatened to consume the shards of light between us, I felt my phone vibrate violently in my pocket, pulling my attention away. I fished it out, breath hitching in my throat as I saw the unknown number on the screen. Not now, I whispered, the tension thickening with each passing second. It buzzed again. An unrelenting pull toward a truth I wasn't sure I was ready to face. Michael was watching me, uncertainty pooling in his eyes as he processed what the moment meant for both of us. Answer it, he urged softly, but fear gripped me, rooting me in place. Whatever lay on the other side of that call could change everything. Oh God, I muttered, swallowing hard as I gathered all the courage I could muster. The sirens pulsed in the distance, a harbinger of trouble lurking just beyond our fragile reunion. Follow your heart, whatever you decide, Michael murmured, a fading light as he slowly backed away. And with that, without another word, he turned to vanish into the shadows of the night, leaving me stranded on the brink of a revelation. His world more precarious than I could ever imagine, and mine dangling by a thread. As I raised the phone to my ear, the weight of uncertainty hung heavy around me, shrouding the choices I still had to make. With a beating heart steeped in fear and hope, the line clicked open, and a voice resonated through, chilling me to the bone. We need to talk. Your friend is in danger. And with that, I realized, standing alone beneath the stars, that I was more entangled in Michael's life than I'd ever known. Teetering now not just on the edge of love, but danger twists and turns like stormy seas. The air felt charged, the weight of all that was unsaid amplifying the quiet that followed the voice on the other end of the line. My fingers tightened around the phone, as if squeezing the fear out of it, but the tremor I felt was deep within me. What do you mean my friend is in danger? I managed to stammer, my heart racing against the backdrop of the sirens that echoed through the night. The voice was steady but tinged with urgency. You need to listen carefully. Michael's past isn't just shadows and walls. It's something very real that is coming for him. And now because of you, backlash will spread to you too if he doesn't take care. Who are you? I whispered, feeling the earth beneath me begin to sway. This revelation bore the weight of an avalanche, and I struggled to keep my footing. I can't tell you that right now. All you need to know is that you must keep him away from his past. If they found him, they will stop at nothing to drag him back. As the words struck me like ice-cold water, I felt a surge of helplessness wash over me. What do I do? My voice cracked, caught somewhere between desperation and resolve. Stay close. Monitor his movements. He might not want to admit it, but Michael needs help. And the moment you see any signs that he's being followed or if he goes missing, you call me. You have to act fast. Time is running out. The call ended abruptly, leaving a hollow silence that echoed in my ears. I lowered the phone, feeling the full weight of what I had learned crash over me. Michael's turmoil was no longer merely emotional. It spiraled into a labyrinth of threat and danger. A world I was not prepared to navigate had suddenly engulfed me. I sank down against the railing of the rooftop, my breath rapid and shallow, disbelief merging with thick fear. How could I help him? The knowledge that he was running from something nefarious twisted my stomach into knots. A glance at the stars above, now tarnished with the ash of dread, reminded me of how naive I once was. Imagining love could only be a sweet tear. It now felt like the edge of a knife, but I couldn't wallow. I needed to find him. I needed to understand how deep the roots of his past burrowed into his life and mine. The idea of him moving through this night, unaware of the danger tracing his steps, sent a rush of adrenaline through me. I scrambled to my feet, heart pounding as I raced back down the stairs, each step heavier with the burden of the choices ahead. The streets felt foreign, shadows clinging to the corners like silent witnesses. My mind raced, and I grappled with the realization that in my quest to untangle his past, I hadn't truly considered the impact it would have on my life, on us. What if my involvement only endangered him more? Just then, as my feet guided me toward his apartment, a figure caught my eye from the corner of the street, a silhouette perched against the building, face obscured but mannerisms both familiar and jarring. It was Michael, his form tense, scanning the street ahead. Something in his body language flickered a sense of urgency, a dance of vulnerability wrapped in a protective shell. In that instant, the fear I had felt before gave way to a new kind of resolve, igniting a spark in my chest. Michael, resolve faltered. There was something in the way he reached for me, searching for anchors amidst the chaos. But just as quickly, hesitation returned, darkening his brow. You don't know what you're asking for. You might not survive this. Then it will be my choice to make, I replied, my voice steady even as my insides twisted. You've already touched my life in ways I can't explain. There has to be some way to confront this together. The moment lingered, heavy with unshed truths and unvoiced fears. Finally, a strained sigh escaped him as he stepped back, shaking his head in resolve. You don't understand the cost of knowing too much. You shouldn't have to bear this. Maybe I don't fully comprehend it yet, but I want to try, I pressed, reaching out to touch his arm and anchor in this storm. Whatever path lies before us, let's face it together. Please, the profound intensity of his gaze bore into mine, and I could sense him weighing the gravity of my words. Just as the air between us thickened with the unsaid, movement caught the corner of my eye, a fleeting figure slipping swiftly through the shadows, a darkness that seemed all too familiar. Michael, someone's here. I gasped, panic slicing through me. I pulled him away instinctively, adrenaline spiking as I felt danger unfurling around us like a specter. Then came the loud echo of a footfall, and we both turned to see a man appear just beyond the corner, face hidden but the menace palpable. I gripped Michael's arm tighter, fear pooling in my gut as the reality pressed down on Ushy's past was not just in memories. It was emerging, threatening to pull him back. Run! Michael shouted, breaking into motion, yanking me by the hand as we fled blindly into the dark streets. The howl of the night echoed behind us as the sound of pursuit grew nearer. The adrenaline surged, fear morphing into frantic energy as we maneuvered through the alleys, driven by a single desperate need: to escape the ghosts that were determined to reclaim their prize. With each breath, I was painfully reminded just how tangled we had become in this web of secrets and danger, with no clear escape in sight. And as we slipped deeper into the shadowy labyrinth, an unsettling thought pierced through the adrenaline and panic: would we be running forever, never finding solace, forever prisoners of fear and the life we could not leave behind? The breathless escape felt like a dream, a surreal nightmare where shadows whispered secrets and uncertainty loomed in every corner. As Michael and I raced through the darkened alleys, our footsteps echoed, a frantic rhythm against the backdrop of the city that suddenly felt both familiar and menacing. I tightened my grip on his hand, fueled by a mix of adrenaline and the raw need to protect the man who had become my unexpected anchor. Where do we go? I gasped, glancing back to see flickers of movement in the shadows, like phantoms of his past gaining ground. Michael's face was set, determination etched deeply into his features. He was a man on the run, burdened by secrets too heavy for one person to bear alone. There's a place, he panted, his breath a desperate whisper. My friend Jack'll know what to do. He's been waiting for me. We need to get there, but we have to keep moving. We dodged around a corner, Michael's instincts driving us deeper into the maze of the city. My heart pounded not just with fear, but also with the relentless urge to understand him, to help, even as the weight of the unknown pressed down on me. What kind of danger had he stumbled into? I wanted to question him, to pry open the layers he'd concealed, but I sensed the time for words had not yet arrived. Just stay close, he urged, his voice firmer now despite the panic skimming the edges. Don't look back at us. We sprinted down another alley. My mind whirled with confusion and dread, each beat of my heart a reminder of how precarious our situation had become. I hadn't signed up for any of this. My life had once revolved around neatly organized files, weekends spent laughing with friends, and dreams laced with comfort. Now dreams were a luxury I dared not approach. Suddenly a grinding sound erupted from behind us, a metallic roar that echoed through the night, slicing through the tension like a knife. I stumbled, nearly losing my footing as Michael pulled me forward, not stopping for an instant. There's an exit up ahead. We can cut through the park, he said, urgency spurring him onward. But I couldn't shake the image of that figure in the shadows chasing us. Very instinct screamed that it wasn't just Michael's past clawing at our heels but something darker, something determined to pull him back into its clutches. The more I felt the weight of my choices crashing over me, the more I realized there was no turning back. My heart had tied itself to his in a way I had never anticipated, each moment infused with a sense of shared vulnerability. As we burst into the dim light of the park, the moon hung high above, a solitary witness to our frantic escape. The air, although heavy with tension, was a little less stifling. I caught my breath, but even in this small reprieve my mind spiraled with questions. Why didn't you tell me? I blurted out, catching his eye as he pulled us behind a large oak tree, the trunk wide enough to conceal us from view. Michael leaned against the rough bark, chest heaving as he stared into the distance, shame etched in the lines of his face. I was trying to protect you, he finally said. Words tumbling out like the uncertain beats of a drum. My past isn't just dangerous. It's complex and dark. I thought I could handle it alone. And now look where we are. I shot back, frustration mingling with fear. This is not something you can shoulder by yourself. Do you really think pushing me away could keep me safe? Because I'm already tied to you. I want to share this burden. For a moment, silence enveloped us like a blanket of tension, the breaths between us charged with unspoken emotions, mixed with the distant sound of the city carrying on, completely unaware of our plight. Sometimes love isn't enough, he whispered, his voice quavering, a softness breaking through his hardened facade. You don't understand what they want from me or what I did. I could understand if you would just let me in. The words struck hard, raw and aching. Could he not see how deeply his walls had affected me? Before he could respond, a rustle from the bushes interrupted us, and the blood drained from Michael's face. They found us. I turned, scrambling to peer through the shadows, adrenaline spiking as another figure emerged. This time it was a woman, her face obscured by a hood. She stepped into the pale light, and I felt Michael stiffen beside me. That was expertly done, Michael. Her voice dripped with a mix of venom and something more sinister. You really thought you could outrun your past? You should have known better. Stay back, Michael warned, stepping protectively in front of me. But deep down I could see the uncertainty writhe within him. You're in over your head, the woman taunted, her gaze sliding to me, recognition flashing in her eyes. And it seems you've surprisingly dragged a new player into this game. I took a moment to react, heart thrumming with a mixture of fear and defiance. What do you want with him? I demanded, the words leaving my lips before I could reconsider. Her laughter echoed, chilling. You don't really want to know, dear. But know this. It never ends well for the ones who try to save the lost. I felt Michael's grip tighten on my arm, pulling me closer, grounding me in the face of impending danger. Run, he urged again, turning toward the opening of the park. But the woman moved with a grace that belied her intent, blocking our escape. In that moment, as hope flickered with every breath, I caught a glimpse of Michael's vulnerable resolve, fragile yet fierce. I didn't know what lay ahead or how deep Michael's secrets ran, but one thing was painfully clear. We were hurtling down a path from which there was no return. And as the shadows of our past converged around us, I realized just how catching the darkness could bite's edges, fraying against the bonds of love and loyalty, twisting everything I thought I knew into a tapestry of fear and resilience. Together, remember? I whispered into the night, my heart racing against the rising panic as the woman took a step closer. We faced this together. But in the seamless darkness, another figure emerged from the shadows, their familiarity wrapping around me like a cold shroud. My breath hitched in disbelief, heart plummeting as recognition washed over Met. His wasn't a mere stranger. This was the face of betrayal. And at that moment, just as I stood on the precipice of this tangled web, I realized. The secrets I had longed to uncover were now unraveling, shattering the fragile thread that connected our fates. The tension hung in the air like a fog, thick and suffocating, as I stared at the figure stepping into the dim light. My heart sunk as I recognized the familiar face, the one I thought I could trust, the one that was supposed to be my ally. Sam, I breathed, a mixture of shock and dread flooding my senses. Sam's eyes, so full of warmth just days before, now brimmed with something unreadable, a twisted smile creeping across his lips. Surprised to see me, huh? He said, his voice casual yet laced with an undercurrent I couldn't quite decipher. What are you doing here? Michael's voice was a snarl, protective instincts flaring as he shifted slightly to block my view. This isn't the time for games. Games? Sam echoed, his laughter sounding cruel in the chill night air. Oh, Michael, this isn't a game. Not anymore. You plunged headfirst into a world you don't understand, and now here you are, dragging your little girlfriend along for the ride. I felt a jolt of panic at his words. I'm not some pawn in this, I spat back, but even as I said it, uncertainty gnawed at me. How had I not seen the warning signs? How could someone I trusted weave into such a warped narrative? What do you want from us? Michael demanded, fists clenched at his sides, the shadows of fear and anger clashing in his gaze. I want to help, Sam said, his tone dripping with false sympathy. But helping means you have to realize the reality of this situation. He leaned forward slightly, the harsh light casting shadows across his face, making it look almost sinister. You don't know how deep this goes. They won't stop until they have what they want from you, Michael. And dragging her into this only makes it worse. What do you mean? My voice was soft, tremors of doubt threading through my resolve. Was I really as naive as he claimed? Let me guess, Sam continued, ignoring my question. You thought you could just leave it all behind, cut ties and move on? It doesn't work like that. He lowered his voice to a whisper, the threat hanging in the air like a noose. You think you can just sweep this under the rug? They'll come for you eventually. It's only a matter of time. My heart raced. Confusion intertwined with anger. Stop speaking in riddles, Sam. Just tell us what's going on. Fine, he snapped with an impatient flick of his wrist. Michael was a key player in something far bigger than either of you realize. There are consequences to his decisions, and they extend further than hell ever admit. Michael stiffened beside me, the anger in his eyes morphing into something darker, something more turbulent. You don't know what you're talking about, Sam. I made mistakes, yes, but I will end this. I won't let them win. Not now, not ever. Unless you come clean, Sam replied coldly. Unless you face what you've done, you'll never really escape. And what you have here, he gestured between Michael and me, this will only lead to pain. And lost chances. The air around us crackled with the weight of his words, squeezing tightly around my chest. A part of me wanted to believe that we could find our way out of this maze together. That love could heal the fractures left by deceit. Another part, however, felt the chills of realization creeping in. Cold love really overcome the dark tides of his past. Suddenly, a sharp noise cut through the heavy silence, a gasp escaping my lips as I turned to see the hooded woman from earlier moving closer, now flanking Sam. My stomach twisted as I understood. Indeed, we didn't just stand on the precipice of danger. We were ensnared in their web. Enough chit-chat, she said, her voice smooth and cold like ice. We have what we came for. After all, time is running out, Michael. Don't you want to know what it really means to play the Gamito? Know how high the stakes are? Before I could grasp the magnitude of the situation, Sam took a step back, shifting his focus to me. They'll use your compassion against you. They already are. You may believe that you're helping, but in the end it could cost you everything. Is that supposed to scare me? I shot back defiantly, squeezing Michael's hand in a bid to ward off the encroaching dread. I'm not going to turn away because you speak in threats. Understand this, he countered, his voice dropping to a murmur that crawled under my skin. Compassion isn't a weapon, it's a weakness. And they'll exploit it to bring him down. Michael turned to me, eyes blazing, a split-second decision churning within. Let's get out of here, he said. And the gravity of his voice settled in my bones like a pulse of urgency. But as I angled to flee, the woman stepped forward, a predatory smile stretching across her face. Oh, it's too late for that. You see, once you've entered this game, there's no easy exit. Without warning, she lunged at us, but Michael was quicker, pulling me aside as we broke into a sprint, adrenaline surging through our veins. Yet as we dashed toward the edge of the park, a bitter sting of reality gnawed at me. The stakes had never been clearer. We were in a battle against shadows. And every moment between us felt like racing against time, a clock ticking down to inevitable consequences, ones we might not be able to escape. But just as hope began to flicker in my heart, a loud crack echoed behind us, followed by an excruciating scream that shattered the night. I turned on instinct, feeling the air thicken in my throat. And in that split second, just as the horrors of the night unfurled, I witnessed a figure collapse to the ground, a tangled mass of shadows, and I realized it was Sam. Panic clawed at my chest, roaring like thunder. Michael! I screamed, knowing the implications of what lay ahead, uncertain whether to move towards him or away. Because trouble had a way of finding us, and now we were irrevocably caught in its chilling embrace. Not like this, Michael swore, his voice trembling as we ran, but amidst the chaos, I began to fear that perhaps, in this game of shadows, not all secrets could remain buried. And as each breath echoed in the charged silence, I could almost hear the whispers of those who would stop at nothing to uncover the truth. The scent of wet earth filled the night air as we ran, the streetlights flickering above us like uncertain fireflies. I could still hear the echo of Sam's scream, a haunting reminder that violence lurked just beyond our reach, mingling with the shadows creeping closer with every moment. Keep moving, Michael urged, his grip tightening around my hand as we veered down an alleyway littered with old crates and forgotten dreams. Each step felt like we were sprinting toward a precipice. A part of me knew I should be terrified, but with Michael beside me, that fear jolted into fierce determination. "Where do we go?" I gasped, forcing myself to keep pace, the adrenaline surging through me. "We can't just run forever." He paused, scanning our surroundings, breathing heavily. "There's an old storage unit I use for emergencies. They won't expect us there. But we need to be careful. If they're after Sam." His voice broke, and I felt his fingers tremble around mine. A reminder of just how precarious our situation was. "Samantha," I murmured, guilt surging at the thought of leaving Sam behind. Though had betrayed us, he was still a piece of this labyrinthine puzzle when I was desperate to solve. "We can't just abandon him." "We don't have a choice," Michael replied, his voice laced with pain. "Right now our priority is to escape. Once we're safe, then we can figure out the truth." His eyes searched mine, a storm of emotion brewing. "Trust me," that I swallowed hard. Trust had become a wobbly foundation lately, but I nodded, steeling myself against the emotional raggedness. I was scared, but I was with Michael. His resolve helped ground me amidst the chaos as we cut through the alley. A flicker of movement caught my eye, darting from one shadow to another. A chill ran through me, but I resisted the urge to look back. I focused on Michael, trying to draw strength from his unwavering determination. When we reached the storage facility, Michael hastily entered the code on the keypad, his fingers swift and precise. Each beep echoed loudly, and I parted my lips to say something, but fear wrapped itself around my throat. I could sense that we were running out of time. The door swung open with a low creak, and we slipped inside, the darkness swallowing us as we closed it behind. The air was thick with dust, and faint outlines of stacked boxes loomed in the gloom. "Stay low," Michael whispered, pulling me down behind a stack of crates. My heart thundered in my chest as silence reigned around us, heavy and foreboding. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours, tension thick enough to slice. I kept searching his face, hoping for reassurance but finding only worry, a reflection of my own. "What if they find us?" I whispered, a tremor in my voice. "What if?" Sure, he silenced me, his eyes narrowing as he strained to listen. The weight of impending danger loomed around us like a storm cloud ready to burst. Suddenly a sound echoed from outside the door, footsteps shuffling almost rhythmically. They were searching, prowling as if the very walls could divulge our hiding spot. My pulse quickened and I held my breath, wishing desperately for silence. "Did you hear that?" "Sam's going to be," I began, but Michael pressed his finger against his lips, waiting intently. With each tentative moment, the footsteps drew closer, complementing the horror building in the pit of my stomach. My instincts urged me to retreat deeper into the shadows, to stop thinking of Sam, but my heart beat a different rhythm, one of empathy and dread. In that darkness my mind raced with questions, with fears. What if Sam's scream had been a prelude to something far worse? His warning echoed hauntingly, tugging at each fragile thread of trust one had left. Then, in the brief silence that followed, a voice whispered from beyond the door, smooth and cold, "Find them. They can't have gone far. He's still alive and we must make sure it stays that way." The implication struck me like a physical blow, fear pooling in my stomach like an icy puddle. Something terrible was in motion, and it seemed that the flypaper we found ourselves stuck in was only tightening its grip. "Michael," I urged, but he was already rising slowly, his body tense, eyes locked onto the door. With a swift motion he turned back to me, urgency in his eyes. "Stay close," he ordered, the gentle authority of his tone sending shivers down my spine, wrapping me in a fragile sense of safety. "And not far," I stuttered, this time fear wresting hope from its fragile perch. As he led me deeper into the gloomy depths of the storage unit, my heart thundered louder with every single breath. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were merely postponing the inevitable. I heard another set of footsteps now, overlapping with the first, as if they were pincers of a trap closing in around us. Without warning, the door burst open, flooding our hiding place with harsh light that silhouetted the two figures on the threshold. And in that moment, my heart fell into an abyss of despair as realization hit me. Recognized one of the figures. "Michael," I gasped, the name falling from my lips like a lifeline. "They know where we are." But before he could respond, the second figure stepped into view, a familiar face that sent shockwaves through my very core. A rush of heat and uncertainty. It was a face I had never expected to see again, the janitor from the staff building, Mr. Eli, carrying with him an unmistakable aura of enigmatic darkness. "Thought you two could hide from the world," he said softly, a peculiar smile creeping across his lips, "but I knew you'd be drawn back to the problems you tried to leave behind." Confusion twisted with intrigue as he stepped further into the shadows, and I felt a shiver of recognition pierce through the dense air. Mr. Eli wasn't just an old custodian. He was a keeper of secrets, our secrets. I had been testing the staff, but now, under his gaze, it felt like we had become part of a game far beyond our understanding. "Did you think you'd be able to escape your fate?" He chuckled, the sound laced with something sinister. "Every choice has a consequence, and I'm here to ensure those consequences catch up with you." As Michael moved to shield me, doubt churned in my stomach. We were trapped, and just when I thought the thread of hope had begun to fray, another secret wove itself into the night, one I wasn't ready to face. "Michael, he's not here to help." The words felt heavy in the air, filled with the weight of a revelation still shrouded in mystery. But before I could finish, I felt a hand on my shoulder, grounding yet electric, tethered to the part of me that still believed we could find a way through this darkness together. As I turned back toward Michael, so many questions danced between us, unwritten futures interlacing with our pasts, and in that heartbeat of uncertainty, I realized this was only the beginning. The stakes were higher than I could ever imagine, and as we stood there teetering on the precipice, I knew we had somehow just stepped into a realm where every shadow whispered secrets, and light was less a guide than a looming threat. The air thickened around us, drowning every flicker of hope. As Mr. Eli stood silhouetted in the doorway, the dim light casting sinister shadows, my mind raced frantically, piecing together the fragments of my racing thoughts. Michael's posture bore the weight of 1,000 unsaid words. His glare bore into Mr. Eli, his protective instincts suddenly igniting. "What do you want from us?" Michael barked, voice steady but charged, while I could only squeeze his hand tighter, wishing we could dissolve into the darkness that surrounded us. Eli took a deliberate step forward, his smile widening with an unsettling calmness. "Isn't that the question of the hour? But the real question you should be asking is, what do you want? You two have been running towards the storm, haven't you? But storms have a funny way of finding you, and it seems like you've never quite left this one behind." My heart raced as my stomach twisted. We had seen the chaos spiral down the alley, but was it only a reflection of our unresolved choices? "You're not here to help," I interrupted, forcing myself to regain a shred of courage despite the anxiety gnawing at me. "You've been watching us, waiting for what?" With a conspiratorial chuckle, he gestured towards the crates that surrounded us. "Insightful yet naive. You think the world unfolds in black and white, yet so much of it dances in gray. You too, so naive you failed to see the gravity of your situation." His eyes glimmered with a twisted sense of satisfaction, as if he thrived off our discomfort. Michael stepped closer to me, a shield of defiance. "I won't let you manipulate us. If you know anything about Sam, if you know what happened." His voice trailed off, a flicker of fear nudging its way through the crack in his resolve. "Eager, aren't we?" Mr. Eli teased, tilting his head. "It's all connected, you know. Choices made in the dark come back to bite when you least expect it." "Sam? He has an important role to play in this little game, doesn't he?" Something in his tone dripped with hidden knowledge, something sinister that unraveled the fabric of my sanity. "What do you mean?" I managed to choke out, anger and dread spiraling together in an agonizing dance. Mr. Ellis' smile faded, replaced by something far more chilling. "This isn't merely a game of what should be. It's a dance of consequences, paths intertwining like an intricate web. You didn't just leave the staff, you left your past hanging in the balance. You thought you could erase it all, but those threads tug at you, pulling you back. Poor Sam is but the tip of an iceberg you've yet to see." An image of Sam's face flitted through my mind, his panic-stricken features as he had called out to us, the raw fear in his voice. "If you're lying," I gasped, unsure of how to hope while standing on the edge of despair. "Oh, how naive," he drawled, raising an eyebrow. "Lying would be easy, but the truth, that's where the real power lies." With each word he draped over us, another layer of uncertainty wrapped tighter around my throat. I shared a quick glance with Michael, where the flicker of our shared fears ignited into a blaze of determination. "Enough. You're not going to play us like pawns in your twisted agenda," he declared, his voice fueled with fire. Eli responded with a soft laugh, stepping closer, almost conspiratorial. You don't even grasp how deep this fountain of shadows runs. But fear not. I'm here to help you unearth it for a price. A sudden sense of unease settled over me. I could feel the darkness slinking nearer, its tendrils wrapping around my mind like a vice. What does that mean? I demanded, my voice barely above a whisper. I had to keep Michael and myself safe no matter the cost. Just a small token of your allegiance, a breadcrumb if you will. He motioned towards a small shine of glinting metal around his neck, a key that swayed like a pendulum between us, symbolizing the strings that bound us to him. Hand it over and it'll ensure your lives spiral in the right direction. But ignore me, the shadows get to decide your fate. The gravity of the choice hung between us like lead, every heartbeat hammering a rhythm of desperation. My mind churned with visions of Sam. What if he was in trouble? What if we turned our backs and it got worse? Think it through. Mr. Eli's voice returned to a whisper, rich with persuasion. You either connect with the ties that bind you or risk severing the thread that can lead to your salvation. I sensed Michael's internal battle waging fiercely beside me, but in that moment I felt torn. This wasn't just about our survival anymore. It was about loyalty and sacrifice and the fear of making the wrong choice. What if, in our rebellion, we lost Sam forever? Do we really trust him? I asked Michael, who looked utterly conflicted as shockwaves rippled through our connection. Trust? It's just a tool in the end, isn't it? Mr. Eli countered lightly, unfazed by our hesitation. Beautiful in the right hands, foolish in the wrong. But you have to decide, right here, right now. As I stood there, my heart caught between loyalty and fear, the choice festered like an open wound. Suddenly, a commotion erupted outside, jars of equipment clattering to the ground, and the heavy shouts of men discussing names lit up the air. Move! Michael grabbed my arm, adrenaline surging through our bodies like wildfire as we turned to flee together, momentarily outrunning Mr. Ellis' gravitational pull. But with every step, I felt the weight of what lay behind us linger, an unshakable specter that whispered the truth we were not yet ready to face. And as we bolted for freedom, a deafening crash erupted from the doorway, Mr. Eli's laughter ringing like ominous bells in our ears, a warning of the secrets still waiting patiently in the shadows. The alley connected us to a world teetering on the brink, every breath a reminder of the chaos we'd narrowly escaped. My heart raced, not just from the escape but from the realization that the specter of Mr. Eli loomed larger than we had imagined. Michael and I stumbled into the moonlit street, the cool night air a stark contrast to the suffocating tension we had just left behind. My pulse slowed, but the questions flooded back with relentless ferocity. What now? I gasped, desperation igniting in my throat. Michael's eyes shimmered with determination despite the panic. We can't keep running without a plan. Whatever Eli knows, we need to figure it out. We need to help Sam. A gust swept through the empty street, carrying the faint sounds of laughter and music, life moving on, oblivious to our turmoil. I felt a pang of envy, wishing we could reach out and grab hold of that normality again. But shadows wrapped around us, whispering that we were already far too entwined in the darkness to reclaim our previous lives. We really want to dig deeper. What if we can't handle the truth? I questioned, fear clawing at my insides. The melancholy weight of doubt had infiltrated the cracks in my resolve, and I could sense Michael wavering even as he tried to put on a brave face. We owe it to Sam, he replied, stealing his gaze on the horizon where gray clouds still lingered from the storm. We can't let whatever Eli hinted at trap us in hesitation. That conviction shifted something within me, a tiny ember of hope flickering to life amidst the uncertainty. Okay, I breathed, but we need more information, something solid to work with. Our footsteps echoed against the pavement as we made our way to my apartment, the familiar route now an uncertain maze. As we approached, I could see the dim yellow light spilling out of my window, a tiny beacon in the night. We slipped inside, the door clicking shut behind us, locking out the noise of the outside world. Let's think, Michael said, sinking onto the couch, fingers raking through his hair as he stared at the scattered papers on the coffee table. My heart ached at the sight of him so burdened. I wanted to shoulder some of that weight. I rummaged through my belongings, pulling out files, journals, a patchwork of my thoughts, pupil grades, notes from sessions long past. We should go over everything. Something has to hint at what he means by connections, by choices. As we piece together the abstract tales of hope, fear, and unresolved echoes from our past, I felt a strange comfort in the chaos. Little moments of clarity surfaced beneath the turbulent waves of uncertainty. Memories of laughter, encouragement from Sam, the gentleness of simple human connection, each story weaving us together. But amidst the comforting anonymity of my room, unwanted memories crashed through my thoughts. Flashes of an altercation from weeks ago danced within my consciousness. Sam standing before me, voice trembling as he expressed his concerns, my dismissive replies erasing the fear in his eyes. I had thought the urgency in his gestures was a mere manifestation of paranoia. What about that time Sam tried to warn us? I blurted out suddenly, startling Michael from his reverie. He mentioned something strange was happening, but I brushed him off. Michael's brow furrowed as he recalled. He did say something about strange happenings with Eli. Felt crazy then. What if he knew more? Of course he did. The realization hit me with a weight I hadn't anticipated. He wanted to protect us, but we were too caught up in our own lives to care. Guilt gnawed at me, a familiar companion I tried to shake. Let's focus on what we have now. Michael's tone softened in recognition of my turmoil, and he took a deep breath. We need to reach out to him. If he's in trouble, we have to be the ones to find him. An unsteady hope flickered in my chest and I nodded, pulling out my phone. But what if Eli is watching? What if he knows? He has eyes everywhere. Our best weapon against him is honesty, Michael replied, his gaze steadying mine. If we can't trust ourselves, we can't trust anyone. We can do this. Gathering my courage, I sent a message to Sam, the glow from my phone illuminating the tension in the room. Sam, we need to talk, please respond. It's important. The seconds stretched into agonizing moments, each tick of the clock amplifying my anxiety. Would he get the message? Would he be safe enough to reply? How could I ever forgive myself if I had pushed him further into danger? Just as despair began to seep through the cracks of my hopeful resolve, my phone buzzed, jolting me upright. The screen lit up with a message from Sam, but it wasn't the mere reassurance I had yearned for. Meet me at our old spot. There's something you need to know. My heart sank into my stomach. The old spot, the abandoned playground where we used to play. It felt like the last place of innocence, now twisted by the weight we carried. Anxiety gripped me tighter than before. Was this the beacon of hope we longed for, or a trap woven by the shadows of Mr. Eli? Are you ready? Michael asked, his voice cracking slightly as he stood beside me, ready to face the unknown. The weight of our choice hung heavily, urging us forward. Taking a breath to steady my racing heart, I replied, for him I have to be. As we stepped into the night, shadows stretched long behind us, whispers echoing warnings of the fragile path ahead. Because with each step closer to Sam, the tightening grasp of Mr. Ellis Webb grew stronger, like a predator watching its prey, waiting for the right moment to strike. The night air was thick with anticipation and fear as we made our way to the playground, each step echoing the uncertainty of what lay ahead. The world felt heightened, as if everything around us was sharpened by the adrenaline coursing through my veins. The abandoned swings creaked softly in the wind, a haunting lullaby that captured the ghosts of our past, both innocent and dark. Are you sure about this? Michael asked, his voice low and shaky as we approached the rusting metal fence that surrounded the playground. The graffiti on the walls whispered tales of childhood laughter, now overshadowed by the weight of our predicament. I have to believe that Sam's here for a reason, I replied, trying to quell the rising tide of dread that clawed at my heart. He wouldn't have called us if it weren't important. Michael nodded, though I could see the worry etched across his face. The flickering streetlights cast an eerie glow, illuminating the path toward uncertainty as we stepped through the entrance. The air felt charged, every whisper of the wind intensifying the gravity of our situation. Sam? I called, my voice cutting through the stillness. The playground lay silent, but the drop in temperature hinted at something waiting in the shadows. Over here, a voice replied, barely above a whisper. We spun around, eyes widening at the sight of Sam emerging from behind the slide, looking disheveled yet determined. Relief rushed through me, mingling with the knots of fear in my gut. You came, he said, a mixture of surprise and gratitude in his tone. Of course we did, I replied, moving toward him. But as I stepped closer, I noticed how fearful he looked, eyes darting as if expecting ghosts to emerge. The sight sent my heart plummeting. What's going on, Sam? We need to talk about what happened with Eli. He hesitated, glancing over his shoulder as if the shadows held secrets too perilous to share. "He's more dangerous than you both realize," he warned, voice trembling. "He knows things about Michael's past, things that could destroy everything." I exchanged a worried glance with Michael, realizing in that moment just how many layers of deceit lay between us. "Tell us," Michael urged, stepping closer. "We can't keep hiding from the truth. None of us can." Sam swallowed hard, shaking slightly as he gathered his thoughts. "Eli isn't just some janitor. He's tied to Michael's past in ways you can't imagine, maybe not even Michael himself." "What do you mean?" I pressed, heart racing. I needed answers. Clarity and uncertainty filled the space between us like a thick echo as Sam prepares to speak. A chorus of footsteps echoed through the darkness, a growing cacophony that sent fear shooting through the air like a jolt of electricity. "We don't have much time," he urged, his voice low. "Ellis connected to a larger group, a syndicate that won't stop their pursuit until they neutralize any threats." "Threat?" I interrupted, panic rising. "What does that mean for us?" "Your compassion, your connection to him," Sam replied, eyes glinting with worry. "They'll see it as a bargaining chip. They're achieving something bigger, and your lives are the price." Just then, a shadow moved at the edge of my vision, and I turned in time to see a figure emerge from the darkness, the familiar silhouette of Mr. Eli materializing with an unsettling calmness. "I warned you, this place isn't safe, boys," he said, his tone mocking, as if savoring the dread etched across our faces. "Get away from him," I shouted, stepping in front of Michael instinctively, my pulse racing. But Eli merely smirked, his presence expanding like a storm cloud. "You always did possess a fierce spirit, dear," he said, gaze glinting with amusement. "But you just might want to step aside before you get hurt." "Why are you doing this?" Michael demanded, his voice dangerously steady as he moved to stand beside me, a silent vow of solidarity. "Why drag us into your twisted games?" With a flick of his wrist, Eli took a step forward, and the air became electric, charged with malevolence. "Because you can't outrun your past, Michael. You were always meant to play this part. And now you're all but secured into the web of fate. You willingly embraced what came before, didn't you?" "I'm not here for your games." Michael's tone hardened. "Whatever darkness you're connected to, whatever you think you can control, it ends tonight." But as the tension spiked, I felt a dawning realization wash over me, a deep-rooted understanding of what was at stake. "Wait," I interjected, drawing closer, my heart pounding against my ribs. "How do we break free? How do we redefine this narrative? There has to be a way." Eli chuckled darkly, stepping back as if savoring our vulnerability. "Decisions, my dear, always come with strings attached. Secrets can drown, truths cut deep. But if you truly wish to rewrite your fate, you must first be willing to pay the price." The weight of his voice echoed around us, leaving a palpable tension hanging in the air. I turned to Michael and Sam, my heart racing, realizing that our bond might be the key to shifting the tides. "We'll confront this together, whatever it takes." Before another word could leave Eli's lips, a burst of commotion erupted behind him. A looming shadow flickered against the light, and my heart dropped as another figure materialized. It was a small group of people, faces concealed yet visibly intent. "Michael Cromwell, it's time you understand the nature of your legacy," the newly emerged figure said ominously, stepping forward, eyes locked onto Michael's with a predatory gaze. "You've stirred a storm, and there's no avoiding it now." In an instant, Michael tightened his grip on my hand, the urgency palpable as I felt the world around us close in. Shadows danced wickedly in the moonlight, our pasts colliding with our present in a frenzy of uncertainty. We had built our connection despite the impending storms. We would not let that build only to see it unwound. "It ends here," we both declared in unison, a fierce cry of determination reverberating in the twilight. And just like that, a new path unfurled into the night, steeped in hope, vulnerability, and the relentless pursuit of freedom. With fear pulsing through our veins, we stared defiantly into the shadows, holding tightly to the light that remained, a flickering flame against the dark. The reckoning of our choices began now, and with it, a realization that in the tangled web of our pasts, love remained a fierce Biacona force capable of illuminating the deepest darkness. But then pain surged through me, an electric pulse of betrayal, and amid the chaos, another twist splintered through the air. A knife pressed against my back, and the world around us froze, leaving only the haunting whispers of a truth waiting to be unearthed. Now, little lady, the voice behind me murmured, equal parts threat and promise, you'll find out just how far you'll go to protect what you love. And in that moment, when love battled desperation, everything I ever thought I knew shattered, unraveling the cords that bound us as the clock ticked down toward our inevitable collision with fate. Because love, though powerful, also forced us to confront the deepest of shadows, intertwined with the secrets waiting to be unveiled. And here, in this moment of reckoning, we breathed in the storm brewing around us, realizing it was time we would not just face the shadows, we would become the light illuminating all that had once been hidden. Together, I whispered, voice trembling yet resolute, our hearts thundering in unison as we prepared to step into the unknown once again. Because the ultimate price of love is courage, the very thread that binds us and the thread that could either save us or shatter everything we hold dear. And as the night swallowed our voices in shadows and light, one thing remained clear: the battle had just begun.